Hello everyone, this is Abhishek and today we are going to study human immune system. So first of all, what is immunity? Immunity is basically it is the ability of living organisms it is the ability of living organisms to protect themselves from pathogens, to protect themselves from pathogens. And what are pathogens? Pathogens are the disease causing organisms. It could be virus, it could be bacteria, it could be anything else. Anything that causes disease in human body is regarded as pathogens. And all the ability, all the processes that takes place inside the body of the organism to fight against that pathogen, to protect the body against that pathogen is called immunity. So, this immunity on the basis of from where it is originated, it is of two types. The one type is innate immunity and the other type is called as adaptive or acquired immunity. As name suggests that innate immunity is present in an organism by birth. So, it is the immunity that is present by birth in an organism, and this immunity is non-specific type. What is the meaning of this non-specific type of immunity? This means that this immunity can fight with any kind of pathogen. It is not restricted to only certain types of pathogen to which it can interact. Then there are these are all the barriers that that we have in our body. What is innate immunity? Innate immunity it comprises of all the barriers present in our body. So, what are those barriers? We will discuss them one by one. First, that is the physical barrier. Physical barrier, as the name suggests, it is the barrier present outside the body. So, the first barrier is the skin. Skin does not allow any pathogen to enter inside the body until or unless there is a cut on the body surface, right. From the cut the pathogens can enter in our body, but if there is no such cut, then skin is a first and the foremost very important barrier that protects our body from the pathogen, and it is present outside of the body. So, it is also regarded as the first line of defense or the physical barriers. Then comes the mucous lining of the reproductive system. Mucous lining of the reproductive system and respiratory system. Respiratory and reproductive system. Now, these are the systems that opens out outside the environment, like respiratory system. In the respiration we take air from outside, and reproductive system is also a sort of opening. So, from these places also pathogens can enter in our body. So, the mucous glands present at these systems will secrete mucus that helps to trap the pathogen and kill the pathogen as soon as possible. So, mucus secreted in these systems, that is respiratory system and reproductive system, is another kind of physical barrier. Then comes second type of barrier, that is called as physiological barriers. Now, what is physiological barriers? These are the barriers which are the secretions of physical barrier. So, these barriers, they are the secretions of physical barriers. For example, the first thing is HCl secreted in our stomach. As we know, the gastric linings the inner linings of the stomach have gastric glands, and those gastric glands secretes HCl, and HCl is highly acidic, so it will kill all the pathogens and microbes coming with the food. So it protects us from various diseases by killing pathogens by the acidic effect of HCl. And the second thing comes is lysozymes. Lysozyme is another cell wall breaking enzyme of the bacteria and other microbes. It is present in our tear and saliva. So lysozymes present in our tears and saliva also helps to fight against pathogens. So it is another type of physiological barriers. Then the third is cellular barriers. Cellular barriers, as the name suggests, it is mediated by cells, and which cells basically helps in providing immunity? So the WBCs helps to provide immunity. WBCs are also called as PMNL cells. What is the meaning of this PMNL? PMNL means polymorpho nuclear leukocytes. This term means poly means multiple or the many, morpho means structures, and nuclear means nucleus. As leukocytes have different types of nucleus within them, so WBCs are also called as PMNLs, polymorphonuclear leukocytes. Now there are different types of WBCs, like it has eosinophils, basophils, neutrophils, monocytes and lymphocytes. So which cells actually takes part in cellular barriers? So that is, example is neutrophils. Neutrophils, with the help of formation of pseudopodia like processes, suppose if this is your neutrophil with this nucleus, if the pathogen comes near this neutrophil, it will form this pseudopodia like structure and engulf this pathogen inside it, and by the activity of all the hydrolytic enzymes inside the cell, it will completely disintegrate this pathogen and destroy it. So it is a kind of macrophage. Then there are certain other macrophage cells also in our body that helps us to provide cellular barrier against pathogens. So other macrophages includes Kupffer cells in liver and microglia cells in our nervous tissue. So these are also the cells that acts as macrophages to eat the pathogens. Then the fourth and the last type of barrier present in the innate immunity is called as cytokine barriers. What are these cytokine barriers? In cytokine barriers, the thing that comes is interferons. What are these interferons? Now, what are these interferons? Interferons are the glycoproteins secreted by virus infected cells to protect the neighboring cells from viral attack. Suppose this is the virus infected cell, right? Then it will secrete some low molecular weight glycoproteins around it, and those glycoproteins are called as interferons. So this will not allow the growth of virus to these neighboring cells. So So, this cell that is infected by a virus, these all are neighboring cells of that cell. So, interferon secreted by this cell will not allow the growth of virus in the neighboring cells around it. In this way, cytokine barriers, by secreting interferons, the virus infected cells are protecting their neighboring cells from the viral attack. So, this is all about innate immunity. So, what we have discussed so far is what is immunity? It is the ability of living organisms to protect themselves from pathogen. And what are the different types of immunity on the basis of from where they are originated? They are of two types, innate immunity and the acquired immunity. In the innate immunity, it is present by birth in an organism, so it is non-specific, right? Like it is active on all the types of pathogens, and it comprises of all the barriers that we have studied till now. First is physical barriers, that is present outside, for example skin, mucous linings of the respiratory and reproductive system. Then comes physiological barriers, it is secretions of physical barriers, and for example HCl in stomach, lysozymes present in tears and saliva, all these are helping to destroy the pathogen when they have entered in our body. Then comes the cellular barriers. Cellular barriers are mediated by the WBC cells, for example neutrophils and other macrophage cells such as Kupffer cells and microglia cells. Then comes the cytokine barriers. Cytokine barriers involves interferons. And what are interferons? They are the low molecular weight glycoproteins secreted by the virus infected cells to protect the neighboring cells from the viral attack. Then comes the acquired immunity. As the name suggests, acquired immunity, it is developed after the interaction with pathogen. As this innate immunity is present by birth in an individual, acquired immunity is developed after the interaction with pathogen. So, it is antigen specific, like it cannot act on all the pathogen, it will act only to the certain pathogen to which it is already encountered first time. Then comes what makes the acquired immunity. Acquired immunity is made by two types of cells. One is the B cells, another is the T cells. B cells are also called as B lymphocytes and T cells are also called as T lymphocytes. They are a type of WBC only. T cells are again of two types, T helper cells and T cytotoxic cells. B lymphocytes destroy the pathogen by themselves forming antibodies. Like this, B cells are going to form antibodies by themselves and they will destroy the pathogen that has entered in our body. Now, what these T cells will do? There are two types of T cell, T helper cell and T killer cell. T helper cell, this will help B cells to produce antibodies. This T cell will help this B cells to produce antibodies to destroy the pathogen, and this T cytotoxic cell, it will again themselves kill the viruses, kill the pathogen. So, these are the two different types of immunity that we have discussed in today's class. I hope you understood the topic. Thank you and have a nice day.